just going to be talking about my workflow in 2017. I've changed this year and I've decided to go with a laptop, and I've completely changed the workflow. I used to use a Mac, and I used to go to the weddings and I used to come back and have a lot of work as soon as I got home. So this year I decided to try and create a 4-hour workflow. It's based on 4 single hours, or obviously you can do 8 half-an-hour blocks, but the idea of it is that you edit some of the wedding at the wedding. I've found that it's worked really well, so I thought I'd post this just to see if you're interested in what I'm doing. The first part of the workflow is to use the right equipment, and obviously there's other videos. If you take a look, if you subscribe to the channel, you can take a look. I've got playlists for the Canon 5D Mark I. You can see the equipment I'm using. Using the right equipment is very important, and coming back with a file that is pretty much spot on is the biggest part of this workflow. You can dive in and you can use the equipment I'm using. You can use any camera, you can use this equipment in AV. Come back with your own results, but I guarantee you that you'll be up to 8 hours before you know it. So the idea of the system is to use manual mode at the wedding, to go to the wedding with an idea of exactly what you want to come back with. Now, what I mean by that is, you know, you're still going to be doing documentary photography, you're still going to do what you want, but the idea is that you know the individual shots that you're definitely going to come back with. Now, a typical wedding might be obviously cutting of the cake, signing of the register, couple at the front in the church or in the ceremony, exchanging rings maybe. There might be what I call the "we've just got married" photo, which is the 2 of them together and they might have a drink in their hand, or, you know, it goes on and on. But whatever your list is in your head, you need to know that before you go. Because I've done so many weddings, I mean, I'm over 300, all of my weddings are really have these shots one after the other, and I know exactly what I'm coming back with as the base of the wedding. A typical photo might be bride with a mother, another one might be groom with a father. So, you know, it's just a matter of structuring before you go is the other important thing. So you've got mastering manual mode is definitely what you need to do, and using the same ISO outside all day if you can, the same ISO inside all day if you can, and you're just breaking it down so you've got variables. You know, there's nothing that can happen really. Your workflow becomes so tight that it's quick. And the looser you are at a wedding, say you're using AV and you're using different ISOs throughout the group shots, you'll suddenly find if you're using 800 ISO 1 minute and 200 the next, you might get colour shift, you might get things happening, and all of this takes time later on in your workflow. So we'll start with the way that I'm capturing the images and putting them onto the card. Go through the other videos, you'll see this over and over again. Sorry if you've watched this 100 times, but this little thing has been the key to everything for me. I use an iPad and I use the iFi card to transmit the images over to the iPad. Now, they're small JPEGs. The raw files stay on this card, and I just use the software on the iPad to stop the raw files from being transmitted. So the iPad only receives the small JPEGs. Now, because I'm using auto white balance throughout the whole wedding, that's completely auto. The 5D makes a pretty good job of white balance, under 92 to 95% of the time. So the files that go onto the iPad and get transmitted are actually the JPEG files, and they're pretty good. I'll flick through a wedding in a minute on the iPad, and I'll show you that the JPEGs throughout the whole time were pretty good. So I know instantly that they're getting transmitted across, and I'm getting a backup, and that's a part of my workflow that obviously is the most important. If you've got a 5D Mark III, you might have 2 cards. Now the argument there is, you know that the images are actually being backed up, or do you? That's what I always ask myself. If I had 2 cards in the camera, would I actually know that the files are still good? Would I know they're actually on that second card? Has everything gone okay? Because if you're just relying on cameras, things can go wrong. And after 300 odd weddings, I can tell you, no matter what anybody tells you, that unfortunately compact flash cards do go wrong. Not very often, but they do go wrong. We used to do 12 cards in and out of a 5D and into a backup device. And at one wedding, I remember one failing during the group shots. When we got it over to backing it up, it was corrupted. So things do happen. So I've gone with this workflow. I'm literally, say I arrive at bridal preparation, I open up the iPad and I put it in my bag. And I will just go straight to settings, and I will turn on my camera, lock it all in, and then the program's called Kenai. So I go into that and it starts backing up all the photos. And the great thing about the iFi system over some is the fact it remembers where it was. That sounds strange, but a lot of them will actually back up the whole wedding again if you plug it all back in, if you link back up. With the iFi, it actually remembers the last time that you connected, and it carries on with the card. So say I get to the ceremony and I run to the front and my bag with the iPad end is away from me and it stops transmitting. As soon as I get back to my bag and I link them up again, it will remember the last photo it downloaded and it will carry on backing up, which has been a big thing. So if you look into other setups, I mean, I know there's not only iFi, there's others, just bear that in mind. So the iFi card goes straight in there, and that goes in my 5D. And that backs up for me over to the iPad when I need it. And I just keep it going and it keeps backing up. The most important thing about those files is the raw files are obviously, it's irrelevant whether my auto white balance is out or in, because I'm going to finish up by editing the raw files. But my JPEGs are being backed up. And what this allows me to do is use a reference point for the JPEGs when I'm in Lightroom later on. So if I just move that camera away, I can then show you later on. So later on, I am using the iPad and I'm using the screen, and I have these up higher and they're in front of me. So I'm editing and I'm actually referencing the white balances that the camera was using. In other words, if I got to an image and it was absolutely fine and the white balance was fine, then why am I changing it in Lightroom? Well, I don't. So I look at the screen, the only thing I say is it a good photo? Is the white balance okay? Therefore I don't have to change white balance in Lightroom, and I don't have to change anything about the image. If it's just a crop, then in my head I just go, it's a good image, needs cropping, and I'm straight in Lightroom. So Lightroom's on the screen. But I just find the iPad is so quick to edit through, because you're flicking through images and you can find one you like and you can edit it in rather than out. So my whole process is editing in, not out. So that's worked really well, the iPad system. That wasn't there last year. So last year I was just going through the images with a mouse, editing in. So I was saying, is it a good image? Keep it in. So then I moved on and thought, well, last year I was actually deleting as I went along. So imagine I've got the first 5 images I was then deleting 3 that I thought were no good of the same thing and just picking one. And you'll find that when you're doing that, you're actually using up time. So what I've moved over to is not to worry about doing that at all, and just pressing pick and just flagging the images as you go along. So in a group, say I took 5 images of exactly the same group, 4 of them had eye closes, so the groups had eye closes in. Maybe one of the couple are closing their eyes. I don't, eye close is not something I accept, so I take quite a few images of the groups exactly the same image. But I might take 6 or 7 if there's 6 or 7 people in the group. So I would literally flick through on the iPad now, and I would pick it, and that's the end of it. Last year I was actually, as I was looking at them, I was deleting them to get rid of them off the timeline. And in previous years I was doing a similar thing, and I realised that the couple do not want eye closes anyway. If they've got one that's perfect, why would they ever want eye closes, or ones without smiles even? So if 3 of the people are smiling and 3 of them aren't, I just wait and I get 3 smiling, 3 smiling. I do whatever it takes now just to get the one photo. So I'm just flicking through them, not deleting, and picking them, and as soon as I've picked it, I crop it. Once I've cropped it, the white balance is usually pretty good if it's outside, so I don't touch that. Then I convert it, make a virtual copy of it, convert it to black and white. So I've got a black and white copy and I've got a colour copy. And then it's finished. As long as I've done that, I've done my bit for now. I don't muck around with them. The exposure was right in the camera. The black and white will be fine because I know that I'm using fixed manual mode, and I know the file's going to be fine when it's printed. I don't edit any blemishes. That's not what I'm handing over at this stage. I'm handing over a file that a couple can say, yes, I like it, I'll put it in the album, or no, I don't want it in the album, I'll leave it on the USB, but I still like it, but it's not going in the album. So we're only wanting to work on the images as far as retouching, editing out bits and pieces maybe. There might be a fire exit sign as they're running out to the registry office in the top right hand corner. I would not edit that out at this stage. The only thing I'm saying to the couple is, do you like the image? Would you like it? Anyway, so on the timeline, what I found then, because you're not deleting, because I'm using the iPad now, and I'm flicking through them very quickly and checking for sharpness, I'm literally picking the best image, going to the timeline, converting it to black and white, moving on. So I've brought my edit time for 1,000 images down to 4 hours. So I'm at 4 hours now. I still think, and here's a challenge for you, comment below and tell everyone about your own workflows below as well, because this is not fixed in stone. We all want to know how to edit weddings very quickly. I think you can do a 1,000 image wedding even quicker than I'm doing it now. You've got to just, there's the challenge. So comment below and see what your edit time is for a full wedding. Now a full wedding for me might be different to everyone else. My full wedding is bridal preparation until straight after the speeches. Don't tend to get asked to do dancing these days. If I do, I've got a second photographer that takes care of that now. But that's my wedding, so I work on 1,000 images maximum. So see what you think. So as soon as you've got to the stage where you've edited them out, the only thing you need to do once you've finished them is press one little flag and everything will pop up, but only the ones that you want to keep, the flagged images. So there'll be one colour copy, one black and white copy. You select them all, you export them, and you put them straight onto a USB stick. It's that simple. And that's the full edit of my wedding for now. And as I say, it's down to 4 hours. If you've got any questions about Lightroom, I'm planning to do, and everyone keeps asking me about Lightroom, and don't get too obsessed about Lightroom is my best, the advice I can give you. It's a brilliant program. What it's for, in my opinion, is selecting from a lot of images and trying to work quickly. There's no miracles going on with Lightroom. So I'm going to do part 1, part 2, part 3 of this. This is just about the equipment I'm using. I know there's going to be a lot of questions about which computer I use and is it the super duper latest thing. The only thing I need from a computer at the moment is that it works really well, which this one does, and it's got an SD card slot. Now that might be a bit picky, but at the end of the day, when I get in my car and I'm coming home from the wedding, I just take that out, it goes straight into the SD, and I just instantly download all the raw files as soon as I get in the car, and I just travel home with them downloading if I haven't edited at the wedding. If it's slightly longer wedding and maybe they do want me to stay in the evening, I'll obviously be putting this straight in here and editing at the wedding during the meal for about an hour if I can. But I don't want the things sticking out of this because it's in the back of the car, it might be rolling around a bit. I also don't want to spend a fortune on a laptop. This is obviously a well-known make, £299, works fine. Windows 10 on it. I always use Macs to be honest with you, but since I got this, it's absolutely fine. So don't spend a fortune on computers. If you can, borrow a laptop off somebody, download Lightroom and see how it runs with the files. Now, what you will find is, as soon as you get to 21 million pixels, you're going to need a really good computer. Now, this isn't the reason I keep the 5D Mark I. If you look at all the other videos, there's lots of reasons I keep the Mark I. The thing that's brilliant about this is it's 13 megapixels. And 13 megapixels is one of the most important aspects of the workflow because it makes it fast. It means I can look at the images quickly, I can edit the raw files and get them out, and it's a very efficient wedding. And 13 megapixels gives you a great 20-inch print and above. It's a matter of if you find the right printer in terms of the human being, the man or lady who actually prints these files for you. If you talk to printers, it's a thing on its own, printing. It's not photography, and you need to know the right people. And if you find the right people, they can make your files, if they're 8 or 6 megapixel, into very nice images. So don't get hung up on megapixels. The more megapixels you have, the better computer you've got to have, the better iPad you've got to have. It goes on and on and on. By the time this is, hopefully this video should last a while. I am seeing Sony are bringing it down to 24 megapixels now. I'm hoping it all lands at about 18 again, except for they make the files so you're literally in churches and they're just clean. So Sony are pushing that way. We don't really need the files they're giving us. So that's the workflow. This is the first video. I'm going to make another one. I'm at 18 minutes now, so I'm going to go. But ask all your questions below this one. I'll try and make another one soon and put that up. But this is the basic kit. Okay.